Our defense pitched a shutout under the snow-covered lights of Lambeau Field, and we will take that win. But it came at the high price of more injuries to key players. And now the Packers go on the road for a very important divisional game against the Vikings. Let's talk about all that, shall we? Coming up on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider, and I've got to say, it was nice to be on pins and needles hoping for a shutout instead of hoping for a win. What a fantastic game against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. We're so glad you're here to celebrate with us this week as we look forward to an important divisional rivalry this Sunday.
And me, I'm Wayne Henderson from MediaVoiceovers.com, and I'm excited about this Packers team and the fact that we could potentially clinch the NFC North in just a few weeks. It's exciting times. This is episode 239 of your Packers Fan Podcast. This week, Scott and I are going to recap all our favorite things from that win over the Hawks. Then it's your turn to sound off. We share your awesome voicemails from 920-3PACK-GO by email and more.
We'll also preview the upcoming Packers at Vikings game, including my keys to another Packers victory. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, is it Vikings at Packers or I thought it was at Lambeau?
It's at Vikings.
Oh, my goodness. I was misinformed. I told somebody wrong today. But we're also, speaking of victories, how about some highlights from that Packers win over the Seahawks? First off, the easy place to start is that defense. Holy cow, did the defense come swinging. I have so much stuff to talk about here, Wayne, so you're going to have to bear with me.
Oh, no, I'm excited for this.
This was the Packers' first shutout since 2018. It's been a while, and this is also the very first time that Russell Wilson had been shut out in his career. Last time that the Seahawks failed to score any points was in 2011, which was a year before Wilson was drafted. So there's some fun facts. Also, the defense, the Green Bay defense, that is, did not allow the ball to cross their own 35-yard line during the entire first half. How about that? Going from not being able to keep the offense from getting a touchdown in the red zone for however many weeks to not allowing them to even get within the 35. That's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, if we could keep that kind of action up, I am all for it, Scott. All for it.
Absolutely. The Packers are currently ranked third in the NFL, their defense that is, in total yards of offense allowed, passing yards allowed, and points scored against. Third. Number 3 defense in the league. That's pretty cool. Kevin King, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas held DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to 5 catches for 49 yards the entire game. Holy cow. And the Seattle defense was held to just 208 yards the entire game, which is nothing to sneeze at either. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, there was so much to talk about the defense. I know there's even more, but I have to just interject that Adrian Amos with the dagger interception, perfect timing, absolutely perfect. And my wife will attest to the fact that I called it on the play before. I go, we got to get an interception right here. This would be the dagger. Oh my gosh, it really happened.
It's amazing. Amos actually had a shot at 2 other interceptions as well. In theory, man, this game should have been won by a higher margin than 17 points. It really should have been. King also had an interception, another one in the end zone. And, man, so much to talk about the defense here. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, and Whitney Mercilus all had sacks on Russell Wilson as well. So just so many good defensive things going. The Packers now have held 4 of their last 5 opponents to 14 points or less, and 6 of their last opponents to 17 or less. 6 of their last 9 to 17 or less. I don't know any more stats you want about the defense, but that is a lot of really good stuff. I want to see that every week. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. Especially this week against the Purple Ones and the following week back at Lambeau Field when the Rams are coming to town. If we can hold them down, kind of like the 49ers did last night, things are looking up really well in the NFC. On the other side of the ball, well, a whole team thing, really. This was the 400th and 51st home win for the Green Bay Packers. That's a lot of home victories. 451, breaking the tie with the Bears. And honestly, I don't see the Bears being able to pass this up again for a long time. Sorry,
not
but
this
not
season.
Sorry. Yeah. No, not this season, not next season, not for a while. We are taking the lead in all stats against the Bears.
Absolutely. And, we talked about defense quite a bit already, but the offense, although it wasn't firing on the passing game as much, our running game, wow. A.J. Dillon, 148 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also had a 50-yard pass from Rodgers. That might as well have been considered a run since he caught it near the line of scrimmage.
Right. Amazing.
Right in the flat, right along the sideline. It was a gorgeous play. Did I not call it? A.J. Dillon was going to be a stud, and he has been a stud this season. Talk about the 1-2 punch with him and Aaron Jones, but he is really stepping up, and he's going to have to step up for the next couple weeks as well. Just really love to see what he's doing. He's just so much fun to watch.
I was going to say the exact same thing, and he's just having fun. He's living life to the full. Today he posted a picture on Twitter or Instagram, maybe both. I guess he got the key to Door County up there in Wisconsin. So he's moving on up.
Very cool. Here's a fun stat. I think it was, I saw something on either Facebook or Twitter a couple weeks ago where they were showing all the times that Aaron Rodgers got back at teams for mocking the championship belt thing that he does, the discount double check.
Oh, yeah.
And, one of the Seahawks, lo and behold, did that this game as well when they intercepted the ball or something. I can't remember what it was. But here's some fun facts. The Packers offense, before the belt was mocked, before that player did that little discount double check thing, there were 7 drives for 259 yards and 3 points. Then, on the flip side, the Packers offense after the belt was mocked, only 2 drives, but 142 yards and 14 points. That is why you never mock Aaron Rodgers in the belt.
That is very true indeed. But it is very interesting that we had 259 yards of offense and 3 points to show for it.
It was kind of crazy.
Very, very. And speaking of crazy, something that adds to all the craziness of this entire rivalry with the Seahawks, because we had some Seahawk player throwing another player's cleat on the field, and then the coach was trying to throw the challenge flag, but he couldn't find it, so he dropped like a flip phone or a hand warmer onto the field instead of the challenge flag. It was just, you couldn't make this stuff up.
Yeah, what a childish move that was too. Like, are we on the playground right now? You're throwing the opponent's shoe. He did get flagged for it, which was helpful. Like, what a dumb thing to do. And not only that, but did you see when DK Metcalf got ejected from the game?
Yes.
And then he tried to sneak his way into the next play. What in the world? I have never, ever, in all my years of watching football, ever seen that happen. I'm not saying it didn't happen. It's never happened before, but I've personally never seen that. It was insane. How do you think you're going to get away with that? Especially
when you've got blue hair under your helmet. I mean, the helmet's on, so you can't really see that. But, DK Metcalf, I think that might have been his worst game statistically of his entire career, and he was just having a meltdown about it. So
that was kind of crazy. I as much as I enjoyed seeing those numbers be low, he is on one of my fantasy football teams, so that didn't help me out too much. But what are you going to do? Well, we had so many highlights to talk about, but we do have to talk about some lowlights as well. A couple things. First off, Mason Crosby did miss another field goal. I didn't write that down here, but I don't know what's up with him. I still have faith in the guy because he's been clutch so many times. I did look. The laces were out.
Okay.
So we're not going to blame Bojorquez this time. But
or Bojorquez.
Bojorquez. I keep saying Bojorquez.
Maybe you never see them together at a party, so they could be one and the same person.
It is like Schmerin Modgers, that guy that plays whenever Aaron Rodgers has. Anyway, but all in all, the offense itself really did kind of have a bit of a slow start. Like you mentioned, only 3 points in that first half. We could have had 6 if it weren't for a missed field goal. The defense definitely won this game for us, and Rodgers' passer rating was only 75.5, which we kind of give him a little bit on that because he only had 1 day of practice and he was recovering from COVID.
Right.
So, but this game definitely relied on our defense and our running game more than the passing game, which it's kind of sad to see, but at the same time, I just love that we're able to showcase the incredible defense and a running game. I say this, I feel like every week. We've got nearly the whole package at this point. If we can get all of these cylinders firing at the same time, we're gonna have a real good shot here come playoff season.
That is for sure. And that passer rating, I think, is at least partially due to the fact that our starting field position was horrendous almost the entire game. Every time we got the ball from a punt, it was because we didn't, really get a kickoff because the Seahawks didn't score. So they only kicked off to us once. But the field position, there's only so much you can do.
Right. Yeah, and you got to be careful doing a running play right out of the end zone. You know what I mean? Because there's just not a lot of room. You don't want to get a safety for sure. Also, there were a couple fumbled snaps, which you don't like to see, but thankfully those didn't turn into a turnover at all. So we were able to hop on the ball and get that taken care of.
No, but it did make me very nervous. I will admit to it.
For sure.
And, well, we got to wrap up with the second most obvious thing from the game, the horrendous injuries. Rashawn Gary, he got an elbow injury, which looked really, really bad at first, but he's only listed as questionable for this week. He might even try to play. And Aaron Jones, that injury looked like it was season-ending by the expression on his face and everything else, but it turns out supposedly it's just a mild MCL sprain that they found out through his MRI. So he's going to probably be out 1 to 2 weeks, which is relatively good news considering. And, of course, our bye week is right after those next 2 games, so that'll be like a bonus week of recovery. However, Packers linebacker Whitney Merciless, he's going to miss the remainder of the season due to a torn bicep, and I can't even imagine how bad that hurts.
Seriously, that's like an injury you don't hear about too much in the NFL. I mean, obviously happens, but how in the world does that happen? But Rashawn Gary, I don't know if you saw the play because they didn't replay it because they said it was too graphic, and I could have rewound it with Hulu where I was watching the game, but I saw it when they did replay it the one time, and his arm got basically stuck in the pile and pulled way back. It just looked like it was so painful, and he was in a lot of pain when he was on the ground. So hopefully he recovers. I mean, if he's questionable for the week, that's kind of insane. We could really use him, but I'd rather better safe than sorry. But I'm also not a coach,
Right.
so.
Right. So we'll have to see what happens there. I do have a question for you, though. Scott, do you ever get hungry while preparing for the Packers Fan Podcast or even while you're recording it?
Oh, all the time, man. I get hungry pretty much any hour of the day.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, dear listener, you can help us fight the hunger and help out the show at the same time. You may have heard of the support service called Buy Me a Coffee. Well, we've cracked the code on how to make the conversion to change coffee into brats. What could be better for Packers fans?
And if you'd like to send us a virtual coffee or bratwurst, just go to packersfanpodcast.com/brat for the details on how you too can buy us a brat, much like Miguel at the Opposites Attract podcast already has. What kind of virtual brats do you recommend?
I don't know. I think to start off, I'm going to go with a fancy Reuben brat.
There you go.
What do you think about that?
I've never had a Reuben brat. I'm kind of a plain Jane kind of person, just a good old brat with some spicy brown mustard, and I call it a day.
Oh, that sounds pretty zesty indeed. Check out all the details at packersfanpodcast.com/brat. Anyway, let's check in on some great feedback from the listeners. We got it at 920-3PACK-GO. Be sure to call that right after the game, after we beat the Vikings on Sunday. Again, 920-3PACK-GO. Or at least by 9 p.m. Eastern at the latest, just so we have plenty of time to process it and get it ready for the show.
Go, Pack! Go! Go, Pack! Go! Yeah, Seattle got a defense, but our defense is better. We came off the board. Way to go, A.J. Dillon in the fourth to dominate. That's what I like to see. We get in the red zone, and we finally scored a touchdown, and I set up for field goals. We're going to have to ride with Crosby. I don't know what we're going to do with him for the middle of the season, but, man, he's got to get it together. But way to compete. Rodgers, good to have you back. Defense, what a game. This was a phenomenal game. Both defenses showed up, but ours was everywhere. They got big turnovers. Matt LaFleur, you are a certified genius. Great play calling throughout the entire game. I was just glad for the win, glad for football. Man, do I love this game. This really feels like our year. It feels like we're maturing, like we're gelling at the right time if we could just stay healthy. I love what we're seeing. Andre in LA. Go, Bud, go! I love this game!
Andre, love hearing from you as always. I love how he says it feels like our year. I feel like we do say that multiple years, especially Wayne, because he's Pollyanna.
I do. Every year feels like our year. But there is magic in the air this year, like Andre said.
Yeah, and imagine if we can, like you said, come out in 2 weeks and clinch the division. Then we've got the rest of the season to, I'm not going to say rest on our laurels, but we don't, we're fighting for the number one seed instead of fighting to win the division. And we can kind of, prep for the inevitable playoffs. I kind of like being in that position instead. But hey, we got to win the next 2 games before that. And yeah, AJ Dillon, dominate. He's such a machine, just powering through some of those holes that he finds, or sometimes when he gets wrapped up and it takes 4 guys to bring him down.
Love it.
He'll get into the pile and it looks like it's going to be like a 2-yard play, and all of a sudden he's 7 yards down. I just absolutely love the power behind those legs. Cannot wait to see more from him for sure.
And he's got great hands. He catches the ball well, and I don't know how he kept from going out of bounds on that 50-plus yard play.
Yeah, it's those ballerina lessons, man, right?
Oh, yeah.
For sure, I loved it.
8 and 2, 8 and 2, 8 and 2. Shut down and shut out, baby! Woo! Wow. What a game that pretty much happened entirely in the fourth quarter, but first of all, props to Matt LaFleur. He continues without a losing streak in his head coaching career. I mean, why has he not gotten Coach of the Year? What a coach, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Never seen anything like it. And he's 3 years in. And I mean, the sky's the limit. So, anyways, on to the game. A slow start, as everyone probably noticed. We made, like, a lot of decent plays and, like, some good connections between Aaron and different people, but it was just frustrating to miss so many opportunities for points at the end of the day. I don't know what was up with that, but we made up for it in the fourth. AJ Dillon, anyone? Okay, talking about AJ and Jonesy, I'll talk about his injury in a minute, but the 1-2 punch with them is unmatched. Honestly, to talk about it, like, is it the best running back duo in the league? I think it is. I mean, Jonesy with, like, the shifty moves and long runs, and then AJ Dillon learning from him with the pass catching too, and running as well, but just powering through. He is so dominant, and his game, honestly, reminded me of the Titans game last year with his two touchdowns, and Lazard helped him do his Lambeau leap, which he like nearly cleared the wall today. Like he jumped over it, and then Elton joined him, which was like the most glorious thing in the world. We have a stellar squad. This is awesome. All right, this is Megan again. So anyways, our offense, yeah, the points don't show for it, but Aaron had almost 300 yards, and I mean, yeah, we didn't capitalize. At the end of the day, we didn't capitalize. So something to work on. And Jonesy, I like, my heart goes out to him. I saw that it could be a sprained MCL. Sprain stuck out to me in a good way. It seems like ACL tears are contagious this year, and the way they described how he went out with tears in his eyes, it's like, I hope he's okay. I don't know. He's such a good guy for our team in the locker room and on the field, and so it sucks. But anyways, are we surprised that the defense took care of business at the end of the day? The whole game, all season, honestly, we really do have a defense that will take us all the way. I saw a stat after the game that said against Arizona, the Chiefs, and the Seahawks today, our defense has allowed a measly 34 points and 0 today. Like you said, shut down and shut out, baby. Let's go. And if we're unstoppable without Jair Z and all the other all-pro guys, like, can you imagine what it's going to be like? It's going to be crazy. Okay, again, I'm not with Pete this week, but he wanted me to speak on his behalf. Quote, championship caliber team anchored by the ironclad defense who bageled them, unquote. Hell yeah, we shut them out, baby! With Arizona, we're back on top of the NFC, baby. Bring on the Vikings. Let's go!
Absolutely, Megan. Thank you so much for giving us a call again and for passing on a few words from Pete as well. What a game. Pretty much it all happened in the fourth quarter, though, Scott.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to bring it up, but this was, up until the fourth quarter, it was kind of a boring game to watch. I mean,
not boring, just no scoring.
Uneventful, I guess we'll say. But I tell you what, I will take an uneventful scoring game with, a shutout over, sitting at the edge of my seat, wondering what's going to happen next. It was a much more manageable game, at least once that second half started, because I was a little nervous at the beginning about what's going to happen, and they came through for sure.
And is it a coincidence that around the fourth quarter was when the snow started falling again?
Oh, it was really pretty too. Like there's just from a landscape perspective, seeing that snow on Lambeau Field, there's something magical about that. I love it. There was a screenshot I think you posted in the Facebook group where there were two cheeseheads. Someone had taken a picture behind two cheeseheads, and you could just see the snow glistening right down there in the field in the background. It just makes my heart happy, man.
It was so good, and it's just mid-November. Usually you have to wait a little while longer. And Jones and Dillon, they do make a great 1-2 punch, and our hearts definitely go out to Aaron Jones and the other injured Packers, Megan. Definitely.
And I had forgotten about the Dillon's Lambeau leap. That was really cool to see because a lot of people don't know this. If you haven't been to Lambeau, that leap is nothing to joke about. That is a lot tougher to do than you think it is. And he did it with made it look like there was no effort whatsoever. It was pretty cool to see. I also love seeing that the fans don't manhandle the players when they do that. They just kind of slap them on the helmet, and then they don't try to keep them there. They just say good job, and then and then they're done. It almost looks like they're not getting starstruck. They're just they're doing what they're supposed to do. Got to keep them healthy. Don't want to do anything to hurt them.
Right.
Just congratulate them and move on. I love it. Well, thank you so much for the calls. Really do appreciate that, Megan and Andre in LA. Always good to hear from both of you for sure. Want to remind everybody, we've got our weekly poll in our Facebook group each week, and you can find that also at PackersCommunity.com and on Twitter at PackersFanPod. And this week's question was about those pesky injuries. Which injury could potentially harm us the most? We had quite a few of them this week. So we've got three choices for you. First off, Rashawn Gary, Aaron Jones, and Whitney Merciless. What do you think, Wayne? Which of these injuries is going to give us the biggest problems in the coming weeks?
Well, a lot of it depends on how fast they can come back safely. Mm-hmm. But my instinct says Rashawn Gary.
Mine too.
Because we've been hearing his name so much this season. Not that we haven't been hearing Aaron Jones's name a lot as well.
Well, yeah, but you're used to hearing offensive players' names, regularly, especially when they're a star player. Even if they don't do well on a play, they're getting the ball in their hands. It's about whether or not they do something good with it. Aaron Jones has been doing a lot of good things with it, but when you hear a defensive player's name over and over and over again, week by week by week, that's something really important. And I think Gary is very, very important for our defense. So I'm with you. I'd say Gary is going to be the biggest hurt. Again, hopefully it sounds like they might both be okay. One out for a couple weeks only, one maybe questionable to play this week. So that's not that bad. It looked a little bit more, I was a little more down in the dumps on Sunday when I saw those injuries, but I'm a little uplifted after hearing your comments and updates there. Well, that's what we thought about our question, but let's see what our community thought. We had some comments on the poll. First off, Jared in Colorado. He says, and I quote, "Tough choice between Gary and Jones. Ended up picking Jones because our defense has really lived up to the next man up mentality all season. His loss hurts more for sure, if it's long term, but I have faith in our defense for the first time in a while. Our offense, on the other hand, really needs anyone they can to be competitive this season, which is unfortunate, but just the way the cards have fallen." Jared makes a really good point. The defense as a whole has been firing a lot better than the offense as a whole. So he kind of makes a good point there. Losing somebody on the offense kind of hurts because as good as the defense is doing, they're not scoring points unless it's on a pick six or something like that.
And when was the last time you heard somebody say that they have faith in our defense?
I know, right? It's kind of strange.
I like it
for sure. Also, Mark says Gary because Dillon can probably replace Jones. There's no one to replace Gary. That was kind of where my head was when I thought about it. If we lost Dillon and Jones, I'd be worried. But
please no.
Not that I'm not worried that we're missing Jones for sure. He's going to be sorely missed the next couple weeks. But at least we still have Dillon there to cover. So.
And David commented on the poll saying they really haven't had a consistent pass rush outside of Gary. If his injury is long-term, this could hurt the defense. And Brett in the UK, Rashawn Gary for me. Aaron Jones is a big loss, but AJ Quadzilla Dillon is such a beast in the backfield that we'll be okay in that position. I think we will miss the consistent pass rush. No one really springs to mind that can replicate what Gary does on a game-by-game basis.
Yeah, isn't it kind of crazy that we hear Gary's name way more than Kenny Clark? I feel like that's the name we heard all last season, and don't get me wrong, he's doing a great job this season as well.
I heard his name a few times during the game.
Mm-hmm. But I just feel like we're hearing Gary's more, which, hey, the more of those defensive players' names we hear, the better, because that means they're doing something right.
Yeah, and I think part of that is, I think Kenny Clark's getting a lot of focus as far as they want to make sure that he does not get in. So
exactly.
Gary picks up the slack.
And then they're going to have to cover Gary and Clark now, right? Because now both of their names are being...
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for all those comments. And if you, too, would like to join that conversation, please be sure to join our Facebook group and let your voice be heard. We would love to hear from you. Also, we got some other great posts and comments unrelated to the poll question that were made in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group, which you can find at packerscommunity.com. First up, there was an ESPN News article about the upcoming Packers stock sale. I think Wayne and I are both currently stockholders for the Green Bay Packers. Am I right?
Of course we are. And I thought that the upcoming Packers stock sale was going to be like weeks or months down the line, but it happened today on Tuesday while we're doing the recording. I don't know how long it goes on, but I know listener Miguel from the Opposites Attract podcast who sent us Bratwursts, he also bought himself a Packers stock today to be part of the ownership team here.
That's awesome. I, you know how I've got my little text group that I message throughout the games each week. One of my buddies in that group sent me a text message just a couple hours ago saying that his 1 or 2 year old daughter is now a part owner of the Green Bay Packers. So he bought his stock certificate in her name, which I thought was pretty cool. That's good parenting right there on display. Absolutely. And I'm excited to see what the Packers are going to do with the funds that they raise from this additional stock sale, because the last one they helped renovate the one end zone and get those extra seats in the end zone and a lot of other cool stuff. So it's going to be great to see. Maybe some extra room for some extra season tickets. Maybe about 40 or 50,000 extra season tickets. That'd be nice. Yeah, that'd be great. Also, Bill shared the Joe Barry apology form if you by some chance need it. I thought that was pretty clever. It basically says, pick a reason why you were apologizing for being upset with Joe Barry. I thought that was pretty cute. That was. And Jared noticed, hey, Scott, they finally did your recommendation. Aaron Rodgers did his cadence trick to get him off sides, but snapped it at an off cadence while trying to do it. And, even watching it on TV, that threw me off. Yeah? Because you're so used to it going down to the wire, right? Yeah, and they hiked the ball early, and I'm like, well, that worked. That was very cool. And Jared, giving you props, Scott, for saying they need to do this. I appreciate it, Jared. I'm glad somebody's listening to my keys. He also added, we've reached a point where it's our defense we need to rely on to win games instead of the offense. Not a fan of this timeline. Patience, Jared. Patience. It's going to happen. All right, moving on to emails. Our first email, I'll go ahead and read this one. This one says, Stephen Verheeren checking in from Palace Park, Illinois. Mason Crosby missed a field goal kick, and what is the matter with him? It seems like it has been a really long time since earlier this season he had, 26 straight games of scoring on field goals and extra points without missing. He did get a second chance, and he made a field goal to make it 3-0. There is plenty to like in the win, but the lowlights, I would say, Mason Crosby missing the first field goal, and of course, the injuries the Packers had in the game. I would say that both Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson were both rusty today. The Packers are 10-0 at home against the Seahawks since 1999. Big congratulations to the Green Bay Packers on shutting out the Seattle Seahawks. As far as a player saving our bacon, I don't know about you, but I don't think I can pick just one player to give it to, as Adrian Amos got a couple of interceptions that kept the Seahawks from scoring a touchdown, and Kevin King also got an interception that also prevented the Seattle Seahawks from getting a touchdown as well, even if the referees reviewed it to see if he had juggled the ball, which he didn't. Also, since the Packers are now halfway through the schedule, it's time for you both to give your grades for the Packers at this time. Is Wayne, despite how the Packers have played in the game, 2 with they lost, and other games they played, heart attack games, is he going to give them an A++++++++? I mean, we all know the answer to that. We all know the answer. Okay, I'm finally going to check out for now, and go Pack go, go Pack go, go Pack go. Stephen Verheeren. Thanks so much, Stephen.
And you're probably giving out grades at your day job at the school as well, right?
Oh, no, man. Elementary doesn't get A's, B's, C's, or D's anymore. Now it's all 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, and they're meaningless.
Which one's best? I mean, is it like 1 to 10, 10 being best, or
no? It's best? 1. It's either a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. Basically, a 3 means you're at grade level and you're doing what you're supposed to do. 2 is you just don't get it, and then 4 and 1 are outliers. 4 means you know it so well that you could teach it to somebody, and a 1 is you're completely lost. So that's how grades go in elementary school. No more A's and B's and C's.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. Now, let's stick with the letters then. If you had to give a mid-season grade to your Green Bay Packers.
Like as a whole?
Yeah.
Like offense, defense, special teams, everything? Boy, I'm going to say a B. Solid B.
Fair enough. I will not be giving an A++++++++, like Stephen assumes. I mean, we did lose 2 games.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with B+. B+.
Yeah, of course you are.
And if it was a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give them an 8 because they've won 8 out of 10 games.
Oh, look at you.
See what I did there?
I love it. 8 out of 10 is an 80%, which is a B, right?
Yeah, B+. Yeah, so hey, brought up a good point in the email. Kevin King, ever since he came back, dude's doing good things for us.
Yeah, he was killing us right before he got injured, and we were kind of like, I'm not going to say breathing a sigh of relief that he was not on the field.
No, we're not. Right.
I'm not saying that.
I know.
It was almost like, man, you're killing me, Smalls. And then he's come back and just come out the gate, and very happy to have him back and in full swing for sure.
Indeed. Another email. Hey, Wayne and Scott, this is Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher from Green Bay, Wisconsin. What a crazy game. It started looking like we have a great defense. It's true. It's very true. And although we won, we hope Aaron Jones will be okay and hopefully be back on the team soon. But we are happy to see A.J. Dillon score 2 touchdowns. We just hope he can stay healthy as well. Hopefully, we will hoist the Vince Lombardi Trophy up again soon. Till next time, bleed green and gold till dead and cold, and go Pack go, CCR. And did I see somewhere you were having yourself some Culvers?
I did have some Culvers.
That would make Caleb and Stephen and others very happy.
Absolutely, man. I replaced my fries with some cheese curds because they were delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Why would they even have French fries?
I know. I'm not a big fan of crinkle cut French fries. I like me some cheese curds for sure over that. And a butter burger, nice root beer to wash it all down. And believe it or not, this podcast is not brought to you by Culver's, but
but since I can't have one, that would be very nice. And maybe I'll work on that on the off season. That would be. Hey, we could. I think there's a owner or manager at one of the Culvers with a similar name to yours, and could that be coincidence? I don't think so.
And that's 100% true. He's not making it up. There literally is a manager at one of these things. I think there was an email, or we saw it online, the manager of a Culver somewhere, I think in Jacksonville, Florida, maybe. His name is Scott Clark.
Well,
not making it up.
I am a fan of this timeline. Oh, thank you all for your calls, your emails, your comments, your support. Remember to join the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community. Be part of the conversations at packerscommunity.com. And now, your 8-2 Green Bay Packers are heading to the Purple Palace to play the 4-5 Minnesota Vikings Sunday, November 14th at 12 noon Central, as all Packers games should be. The Packers do lead the series 63-55 and 3 ties. The rivalry with the Vikes started in 1961 when Minnesota entered the league as an expansion team, and I'm not going to make any comments about how they've pretty much been an expansion team ever since. The Vikings have been in 4 Super Bowls, couldn't win one of them, and Jerry Seinfeld could be heard to comment, that's a shame. The Lombardi Packers beat the Vikings in 9 of the first 10 meetings from 61 to 65. That'd be a great time to be alive. My first ever game at Lambeau Field for myself was against the Vikings. Monday Night Football. It was one of the Packers' worst seasons with Brett Favre. It was freezing, 29 degrees at kickoff. Our main running back was Sam Gatto. Remember him?
Oh, my goodness. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah. And Ryan Longwell, former Packer kicker, went to the evil Vikings, kicked the game-winning field goal for the Vikes with like 5 seconds to go, crushed us while we were freezing to death. But I bought my tickets through, I think it was Event USA at the time, and they had a player meetup. So I got to meet the night before the game, Mark Tauscher, one of our linemen, and William Henderson, who was quite surprised out of all the people that came there to do a meet and greet and get autographs. I had a Henderson jersey.
Nice. Of course you did. You didn't tell him it was your last name, right?
No, I did. He didn't believe me. I got him my driver's license. No, I'm W. Henderson. A nexus of the universe right there. And how could we forget the big twist in the rivalry when Brett Favre, after being exiled to the Jets for a year, found his way to quarterbacking the Vikings. Yikes, Scott.
Yeah, that was a crazy time to be alive, man. That's like just proof right there. You got to quit while you're ahead, right? I really hope.
That first year with the Vikes, Brett Favre and the Vikes swept the Packers, which was quite shocking. Of course, the tables turned the following year, and Aaron Rodgers has not looked back.
Exactly. I've actually been to a home game against the Vikings game, but it wasn't at Lambeau. Those of you old enough to remember, the Packers played at County Stadium in Milwaukee quite a lot. And this is actually where a fun fact. The Packers have quite a history of playing at County Stadium, which no longer exists. That's actually where the Brewers played before Miller Park was constructed. In all, there were 120 games played at County Stadium in Milwaukee, and their record playing there was 75-47 with 3 ties over that time until 1995 when Lambeau's capacity was increased and the move was made there permanently. So they stopped playing in Milwaukee back in 95, and that was about the time I had to have been like 12 or 13 when that happened. But yeah, it was nice to be able to go watch a game up in Milwaukee. It was a lot shorter drive for me than driving all the way up to Green Bay. But
oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I like that it's nice and close now.
Excellent. I'm glad you got to see part of that rivalry as well. I do not have a weather report this week because the Vikings, of course, play indoors. So the weather, not a factor. And unless something crazy happens like the roof caves in at this Viking stadium like the old one, who knows?
Oh, my goodness. I don't think that'll happen. I've actually toured U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. My wife and I went one year when we went to like the Mall of America, and then we actually did a tour. That is an impressive stadium, man. The roof that you're talking about is glass, but it's like three layers of glass. So like there's nothing breaking through that thing. It's super impressive. So I would like to go see a game at one point there. I got to sit in the press box and look over the field. It's cool.
Now you do know there is a game there in about 5 days' time.
Mm-hmm.
You could go.
I could go, but unfortunately, I will not be in the area. I'm actually going to be traveling this weekend, so it's actually going to be a bit of a bummer because I'm going to have to watch the second half of a game recorded when I get home because I'm going to be in the air during the second half of the game, sitting in the airport, watching the first half of the game, and praying that there's some kind of internet connection on my flight on the way back.
Cool. Very cool. Safe travels, Scott.
Thank you very much. Well, Wayne, would you like to hear some keys to a Packers victory over those pesky Vikings?
Yes, especially since some of your recent ones have been implemented and worked.
Yeah, let's see if they're listening again. First off, I'm going to go ahead and say that the offense needs to fire early. This week's game was definitely a win for the defense, but we won't survive against the Vikings without scoring in the first half. Now that Rodgers will have a full week of practice under his belt, we'll hopefully see him and the rest of the offense firing on all 8 cylinders. He didn't even throw a single touchdown pass this game, which needs to change this time around. We simply can't rely on the defense as good as they've been. The Packers need to play 4 full quarters of nose-to-the-grindstone offense against this, quote, average defense if we're to extend the lead against Minnesota, and we really need to. Number 2, need to contain Dalvin Cook. The Packers secondary was put to the test against Seattle this week, but they should expect a much heavier run game this time around, something the defense has struggled to contain in the past. This past week, Cook played for 82% of the snaps against the Chargers, with 118 total yards combined rushing and passing. So tackling is going to be paramount if we're going to survive this one, especially in the red zone, which has admittedly improved over the past few weeks. But in order to win this matchup, I'm once again going to ask the defense to do what they did in the last couple of weeks, but this time do it against an incredible running back. Lastly, I'm just going to say the key word that we've been saying the last few weeks, resilience. That's been the name of the game this season, and it needs to continue. The green and gold needs to power through the injuries as they've proven that they can do. It's unfortunate that so many key players are down right now, but our depth is strong enough that we need to shake it off and continue with perseverance. This is a must-win game for Minnesota, so we should expect them to be firing extra hard this week. Shake off the negativity, soak up the hometown crowd, and do what needs to be done.
Oh, man, I'm fired up. I love it, Scott. Fired up. It's going to be, and then yet another game that is airing in many areas. Mm-hmm. Haven't had to use the NFL ticket visiting over with my son, but twice this year.
That's pretty sweet, man. I mean, they're a hot ticket item. People want to see what's going on with the green and gold, man.
Duh. Everybody wants to see what's going on with the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. I mean, and of course, the Rams game is going to be airing during the bye week. No Packers game. Wah, wah. But then after that, of course, the rematch with the Aaron Rodgers-owned Bears. But how'd we do with guessing the scores this week?
Well, let's see. I guess that the Packers were going to win 14-10, and that was a total differential of 13. And because the Packers did score 17, but the Seahawks scored nothing. Wayne, you guessed 21 points for the Packers and 17 points for the Seahawks, which was a total differential of 21 points.
Ouch.
That means I got another one in the win column this week, so I am far from out, man. I'm only 2 games behind you now because you've got 5 points, I've got 3, so I am definitely still in the running. Plenty of season left for me to catch up so that you can play Madden with me on Xbox Live.
Oh, no. Uh-huh.
All right, so this coming week, we got to make our predictions. I'm going to go ahead and say I think this game is going to be a little bit higher scoring, mostly because Minnesota is just, like I said in my keys, they are in a must-win situation. If they want to have a chance for this division, which I know it's a little bit of a long shot with how much of a lead we've got, there's still plenty of time for them to catch up. So they are basically in must-win territory at this point, and they're going to be firing all over the field. But I still think the Packers are going to come out ahead. I'm going to say Packers 27, Vikings 20. How about you, sir?
I'm going to go with a Packers victory, Scott.
Duh.
I paused for the dramatic effect. I'm going to say Packers 24, Vikings 19.
19?
It's a very important number in the Stephen King universe, if you've read the Dark Tower books. And yeah, they're going to probably miss an extra point or two. And there you go, 24-19 Packers.
Okay, sounds good. We'll have to stay tuned next week to see how those rankings stand up.
Yeah, and speaking of rankings, the Packers in the lead in the NFC North, 8-2. Vikings 4-5. Bears 3-6. Wah wah. And the Lions, well, they were able to pull off a tie this week, so they are 0-8-1. So at least they're not going to be the first team to go 0-17.
Yeah,
that's that tie.
I'm starting to feel sorry for them.
I feel bad for them too. I mean, I'd much rather it be the Bears at 0-8-1 or 0-9 or something. So teams on their bye week this coming week, week 11, the LA Rams and the Denver Broncos. So adjust your fantasy teams accordingly.
That's also a big one with the Rams being on their bye. That means when we face them the following week, they're going to have an extra week of rest. So that's going to be a really huge game. I
think they need more than rest after seeing how they played last night against the 49ers. And I do not like kind of mathematically rooting for the 49ers, but I need the Rams to lose to, help out the Packers. And I don't think you can just bring in a bunch of stars and expect there to be a coherent thing happening on the field.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll get to that in just a second. Before we do, I want to talk about Brady's press conference after the Bucs lost to the Washington football team. I don't know if you got to see this, Wayne, but it's worth looking up. You got to watch it because he was definitely not happy. I mean, Brady's used to winning pretty much everything that he gets his hands on. He basically goes up to the podium, answers 3 quick interview questions very curtly, hardly responded whatsoever, then tried to walk off the stage. You could actually hear one of the reporters say, "That's it? That's it?"
Nice.
So he came back for like 1 or 2 more questions, hardly answered, and then promptly left the podium in a huff. It was, I mean, he is the GOAT. We've established that, right? But sometimes I just kind of like seeing get frazzled like that because
I don't think he'd be quite so grumpy if he'd actually eat some bread.
Eat some bread.
Those Subway commercials, they're hilarious. Man. They have him in for about 1.5 seconds, and he's like fondling this bread and sniffing it, and they're like, "You don't even eat bread."
It's kind of crazy. Also, speaking of the Rams, for a hot minute, we thought this past week that the Packers might be picking up Odell Beckham Jr. Because he was available, but he had expressed some interest, as did the Packers, but he actually wound up, like you said, with the Rams, which will make the following week's matchup even more interesting if he can get in the groove, because he did not get in the groove. He only had two passes for 18 yards on 3 snaps. So here's to hoping that he's not a threat while he warms up to his new team, which, 2 weeks away. We'll see where we're at. All right, moving on. Want to remind everybody about my other podcast that I've got called The Gaming Outsider. And if you love video games as much as I do, you are going to want to check this out. This week, we are reminiscing about our most memorable mini games. What do I mean by mini games? Mini games are those, games within a game that aren't necessarily part of the core gameplay mechanics. We're reminiscing about some of our favorite ones and talking about whether we like those in games. So be sure to check that out. We also played the new Forza Horizon game on Xbox, as well as the latest Mario Party game on Switch, which, Wayne, you would have a blast with your grandkids. You need to play some Mario Party with them. It's great. We also had a special guest this week. His name is Grant Henry. He does all the music for my podcast, and he actually did all of the audio and music for a recently released game that actually released today as of this recording. So he came over to talk about that. It was a great conversation. Highly recommend it. You can listen to it the same place you listen to this fine show, or you can go to our website, thegamingoutsider.com.
Now, when you say a game within a game, do the characters in the game play some other game in the game?
In some games, yes. We actually talked about one video game series that was made by a certain creator that had made some other games. And the characters in that video game actually go up to arcade cabinets within the game that actually have the full arcade game that you can play right there. So like the character walks up to the cabinet and then you can play that game, which is just so cool.
That's fun. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got another podcast as well, which I never thought would be on at the same time as the Packers Fan Podcast, but it is. Doctor Who is back, and I've got the Don't Blink podcast devoted to Doctor Who. Check out the details at don'tblinkpodcast.com. Talking about the mini season that's on right now, which is now half over, but this week's episode was wild. And we talk about it all at don'tblinkpodcast.com.
I got a question for you guys. Do you love value? Because we've got a value for value model over here at the Packers Fan Podcast, and that value is through a website called Patreon. This is a place where you can help financially support your Packers Fan Podcast, and if it's in your budget, we've got plenty of options for you. You can also possibly get some Packers Fan Podcast swag all at the same time. Look for those details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. And we've got some big shout outs to give to some of our dedicated listeners. First off, at the Jim Ringo Patreon level, mighty Go Pack Goes and thank yous to Mr. Dan Dyler. Thank you and Go Pack Goes to Willie Wood level supporter Bryant. And also Jay Walters, thank you, and Go Pack Go for your AR-12 inspired support.
Thank you, and Go Pack goes to our Firetastic Packers Fan Podcast supporters Lawrence Harvey, Andre in LA, Colin Nolan from Ireland, Scott Bors, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast, and Jeff Summerfield. And Curly Lambeau makes sure we remember to give Go Pack Goes and thank yous to Beth Mintink, Joe Christensen, Hank Davis from the TPE network of podcasts, and Matt Haig. Thanks again for all your support. If you too are interested in becoming a patron of the PFP, check out the details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast, which is the unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. But please follow the podcast wherever you listen. And most importantly, sharing is caring. So please tell a friend.
Also, if you were on Twitter, you can follow us at Packers Fan Pod. You can also follow me personally at GoCastScott or Wayne at Wayne Henderson. And to help keep the Packers on their winning streak, it's Patreon supporter Dan Dyler.
Hey, Packers Fan Podcast listeners. This is your cheesehead from Indianapolis, Dan. And I have just two words for you. Go, 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 Pack, go!